we're going to spend some time today trying to get to grips with how you prepare for an investment banking interview, what you do during the interview, and a few tips on how you can conquer your fears with respect to the entire process. Here's a little bit about me. I'm Reshma Krishnan. I have been part of the investment banking industry for over 12 years. I began my career, so one of the interesting things about this as well as I want to also tell you is that getting into investment banking is hard. It is very, very competitive. And what I always tell people is that a quick tip just before you begin is to make the goal of getting into investment banking a moving goalpost. Don't put yourself under tremendous pressure to get the job that you absolutely love on day one, because it is competitive, and what you need to do is kind of prepare a stepping stone or a career path that will eventually lead to you getting the job that you want in corporate finance. Number two, the tips that the things that we focus on today are applicable across the financial services domain. Be it while this webinar is called investment banking, we will focus on investment banking because I'm an investment banker. The questions as such, especially the technical questions, and even the research that I'm going to talk to you about today, can be used for jobs in equity research, can be used in jobs in corporate finance, evaluation, advisory companies, like maybe a job at KPMG in their advisory firm, private equity jobs, or maybe you want to join as a CFO in a startup and help them raise funding. All of these questions can be used to prepare for jobs across the financial services landscape. Yes? So we'll spend the first part of our, I'm not going to spend a lot of time telling you who I am as much. Let's get to the crunch. We're going to spend the first 15-20 minutes getting you to grips on what to do before the interview. We'll spend some time during the interview talking about how you dress, how you sit, all of which is important. And then of course we'll spend the last 15-20 minutes trying to understand what the top 15 questions are, that you're going to get asked at these finance interviews. Yeah. Here's with respect to before the interview, what we suggest is, of course, is very important. Is that the most important thing that you can do is research your industry. Investment banking is about the actual job, so let's give you an understanding about that. I'm going to actually try and see where my investment banking is. What is investment banking? Essentially, an investment banker is a glamorous broker. He or she helps their clients buy or sell companies or assets, and he or she also helps those companies syndicate private equity and public equity financing on behalf of their clients. Okay, and therefore essentially what you need to know is you need to have the skill, the ability to analyze and all the things required for corporate finance, which is the ability to interpret financial statements, the balance sheet, the cash flow, and the profit and loss account. Just 1 second, I just need to. Sorry about that. Is the ability to interpret financial statements and analyze the industry around you. And so you need to, in your interview, be able to communicate that you have these abilities. So the first thing I do is, of course, I say, one of the first things I do is I say go and join a course like the EY-FAP program or any other sort of course that you think is better for you, and that's what we do in the EY-FAP program. We break the technical skills required for investment banking down to its various elements and essentially get you ready for this by making sure you know the basics, fundamentals of accounting, by ensuring that you know how to do forecast and do financial modeling, to ensure that you know how to value companies, both through the cash flow, through the income methodology and the market methodology, also to ensure that you are able to you know, build significantly robust financial models using significant documentation and documenting your assumptions. And of course, finally, to make sure that you have the business writing and communication skills that are required to succeed in this industry. We also focus on teach you how to do analyze the industry using analyze the industry the company is part of. So because of the kind of grounding um, you get in this, you therefore are also taught specific skills with respect to how to do these things. Now, in the event you don't have the EY Factor program to fall back on, here are my tips in how to research the industry of the company. The most important thing that you want to do is to be able to fall back on examples that you can use during your interview. That's very, very important. Um, and the examples that we use, of course, are with respect to, excuse me, yeah, sorry about that. And of course, it's important to, so one of the tips that I give all my students is take 3 industries, okay, just 3 sectors that you really care about. And these sectors don't have to be, they can be any of the sectors. And the best way, if you have no idea where to start, is 1, you can read the paper every morning. And 2, you can also open a magazine called the Dalal Street or the Capital Line, and you can look at industry. So, for instance, choose the cement industry, maybe the pharma industry. And the interesting thing is a lot of investment banks focus on certain verticals. Like, for instance, Avendus Capital is very, very focused on, they were pioneers in IT and BPO. There are other investment banks that focus primarily on pharma. There are private equity firms that invest in specific industries like e-commerce or infrastructure and power. And don't limit yourself to what's just fashionable. A lot of the time, investment banks are still looking for people who are interested in brick and mortar industries. And because most people don't come in because they're all want to talk about Flipkart and Walmart, it's actually really interesting if you can talk about the oil industry and the coal industry. Yeah, so choose 3 industries that you are willing to spend a lot of time researching, and do what we call the Porter's 5 forces on the industry. We teach that at the EY-FAB program. It's extremely important. And the second thing that we do is that we also learn how to do corporate strategy with respect to what are the key critical success factors that for a company to succeed in this industry. Once you do that, and you have a complete understanding of 3 sectors, and let these sectors be quite separate. So if you're using cement, pharma, e-commerce, or the IT industry, the ITES industry is actually um, a great industry to follow right now, because it's not doing very well. And industries that are not doing very well are also one of the most researched industries. Mature industries have a lot of data, and data is something you can use to showcase your skills. Taking something like e-commerce, for instance, doesn't have that much data as such. You have a lot of anecdotes, but you don't have the data to back it up. Taking something like the steel industry, on the other hand, you have 20 years worth of pricing that can be very, very useful. Once you choose your sectors, my suggestion is to pick 3 companies from each sector, and using all your learning with respect to some of the technical questions we will be looking at towards the end of this webinar, use those and prepare your answers with respect to that respect to those companies, and learn everything you can about those companies. And from where would you get this information? So, for instance, for industry information, the first place you start is the own industry association websites. Industry association websites have an incredible amount of data. The second thing you do is very simple, and now I will show you what to do. For instance, if you want to find out about the Indian automotive industry. Indian automotive industry, Indian automotive industry forecast 2020.pdf. You'll be able to get a number of, look at this, look at the number of documents you get. Indian Automotive 2020 Strategy by Strategy and PwC, Global and Indian Automotive from 2010 to 2020 by somebody else, India Opportunities, what's driving the global automotive industry. McKinsey is a fantastic, fantastic source for research and research. You have close to 5 things, just 5 reports already that you can use to get data. Look at this. There you go, and you have enough data to start your own, to prepare for your interview, to get key points. Let's go back to the PPT. Not that, yeah. Okay. So that's a fantastic way in which to research the industry. Once you get those PDFs, read through the PDFs and prepare your own understanding of it. Questions like, where is this industry going to be in the next 10 years? What are the 5 key investment highlights of this industry? What are the 5 key trends you see in this industry moving forward? What are the challenges this industry is going to face? And of course, do the porters the porters that we teach, and of course, key success factors that we teach in the EYFAB program. That's very crucial. Once you do that, choose 3 companies. The 3 companies that you choose can be, my suggestion is to choose a top industry leader, someone in the middle, and then someone that's not doing very well, especially for equity research, because that then helps you to have a buy, sell, and a hold. And number 2, you have some variety to understand, answer questions with regards to price to earnings ratios, etc. Now, while investment banking and private equity is primarily about private companies, and M&A, of course, you can buy public or private companies, but private equity is only about private companies. Please note that because there's no information available, regardless of where you're applying, people will only expect you to know information about publicly listed companies. Okay, and that's very important. The other important thing that we try to do is, of course, when you're doing this, and you need to be able to use this information in your interview. So that's the research and industry and the company part of it. Identify reasons for wanting to work in the company is number 2. This is something that most people don't do, and most people don't realize that you need to do it before every interview, because every company is different. Example, if you want to work for a firm that is small, make sure that your answers about working for investment banking include, why do you want to be in investment banking? Include that I want to work in investment banking, but I want to work in a small firm like yours. I want to be able to do a lot more. I want to be a key resource. I want to work across verticals. I want to be part of, I know that being in a smaller firm will enable me to spend time, get more face time with clients and learn more. Because I'm part of smaller teams, I get to do more work, I'm accountable, and all of this just shows how hardworking you are. But if you are perhaps going to a larger firm, for instance, flip the answer completely. I want to work for a larger firm because it gives me the ability to move across the world. It gives me the ability to work in Hong Kong and New York. It gives me global flexibility. I get to deal with cross-border M&A. So make sure that now here's the thing. You're ready to get a job wherever you want, right? Wherever you can get a job in this day and age in investment banking. So you need to customize your answers to that firm. You can't go into a firm that doesn't have verticals and say, I want to specialize in the vertical, because they will know that you haven't prepared for the interview. You can't go into a small firm that doesn't have global offices and say, I want to travel internationally. They'll be like, yeah, but we don't do international cross-border M&A. Or will you say, you don't know? So for instance, specifically for investment banking, go and look at all the deals that they have done. Go and look at what we call tombstones. Tombstones are these small boxes. that of transactions that have happened. What exactly, and this will help you identify reasons for why you want to work in that firm. Um, but before we're kind of jumping the gun in respect to understanding the firm, you know, one of the main reasons I don't employ a lot of my interviews are failures is that they don't know why they want to be investment bankers. They don't know why they want to be in equity research. They don't know why they want to work for a private equity firm. And this answer is very much linked to your understanding of what these people do in their very specific roles. And you just can't say because I want to be in investment banking because want a challenge or because it's interesting. That will not fly. You are competing against people from you're competing against the best of the best who want to work in finance when you are looking for a job in investment banking. Your answer has to therefore be very, very specific. Your answer has to be that I am good at certain things. I have the ability to be extremely analytical. I like the fact that finance is the cornerstone of what moves the global economy. That everything with respect to how a company does is actually in the end related to finance, because finance is therefore related to corporate finance, which is related to how companies grow. And investment banking indirectly asks the key questions about how companies grow, why company why some companies do better than others. And investment banking also has the variety that I would not get perhaps if I went and joined another firm. It also has, and then you can of course customize the answer depending on the thing. But make sure that that answer on why you want to work for investment banking, or why you want to work for private equity, or why you want to work for advisory firm are very, very well thought out, are very are truly showcasing your resume. Take things from your resume to say why you want to work in investment banking. And the fantastic thing about this is that you are leading the interview when you start talking like this. You're already answering the majority of his questions because you're already talking about your skills. Um, for instance, if you love to value and if you like the way numbers relate to themselves, that's a fantastic answer to say, okay, my qualitative skills are excellent, and I like working with numbers. I like to see the way the profit and loss, the balance sheet, and the cash flow statement interact with each other, and how that these three statements show everything and capture everything that's happening in an industry and a company, and that is part of the global. So these are the kind of answers, well thought out answers that I as an employer want, because I know that if somebody has prepared so well for an interview, that same person will work very hard at the job. Number three, recall situations that show favorable behaviors and actions. This is a really tough one, especially the qualitative stuff, like talk about a leadership role that you had, or talk about a time when you experienced failure. Just like you, I hate these questions because they're so vague and you have no idea what they're about. The way you prepare for these questions usually is determined by you really need to dig deep for some of these questions. And and when I mean dig deep, really go back to areas in your life where you did perhaps lead a team or were part of a team, or did anything that you can showcase as an achievement, especially for freshers, because you haven't worked before and therefore you don't have those experiences on which to fall back on. That doesn't matter. They're only trying to assess your ability to lead a team, to be positive, to be aggressive, to be confident. So find situations where that has happened. With respect to if you're in equity research or if you are in anything to do with the equity capital markets, a great way to show work experience is one, having a phantom portfolio. A phantom portfolio that you have tracked, and that you have evidence to show. So for instance, I have 10 stocks, I've invested them in the last 3 months. This is what's gone up and down. I genuinely like doing this. And while I might not have worked in the equity capital markets, I know what they're about because I have invested, and it's not my real money, but it's still my money, and therefore I've made that attempt to do that. Um, Analyze the skills that the employer is seeking. Well, with respect to investment banking, it's actually very, very simple. Employers are looking for four major things. Investment banks, to be specific. They're looking for people who are exceptionally smart, and so you need to have an academic background that you want to talk about. They do want to see that you have worked hard. What does this mean, this academic background? The academic background is nothing but trying to make sure there is a reason, on average, most people do better than other people because they work harder. Of course, yes, there is, and intelligence is very, very subjective. And extremely intelligent people don't do well. Extremely intelligent people do well. However, what most people know is that hard work ultimately does show result. And what they'd like to see, because you haven't worked anywhere before, is to see an evidence of work ethic, to see an evidence of aiming for excellence. That is what investment bankers like to see. And therefore, they focus on your academic record. Therefore, they focus on your analytical skills. Therefore, they focus on your communication ability to communicate. They focus on your qualitative skills because there is a significant amount of number work. They focus on your technical skills, and that's we're going to come to technical questions later on, because they need you to know the domain. They they don't want you to come in. They don't want you to come in and just one second. They don't want to hire someone who doesn't know what they're doing. Yeah, of course that's why the EYFAP program and programs like EYFAP are so appealing to recruiters, because they know that when you come in, they are going to know that the person knows how to make a financial model, that they know how to, with respect to, they know how to analyze an industry, they know what a Kaplan model is, and I don't have to teach them what levered beta is and unlevered beta is, etc. So that's why they test these skills. So these skills, the qualitative skills, the technical skills have to be spot on. And of course, finally, they also want to see that you are presentable, that you are confident, etc., etc. We'll talk a little bit about that later on. Um, so essentially, these are the main key skills. So, and analytical skills, and of course, they want to understand your Excel and PowerPoint skills. That's also very, very important. One of the most how do you do all of this? Now, here's the thing. I find that most people prepare this way before they come to an interview. They don't, they freeze up in the interview. Why? Because you have, now here's where all your rote learning comes handy. Write all these answers down. So let's say you have 15 questions, and I've asked you a lot of questions, for instance, and I'll ask you 15 questions. Write those answers down. Write them down on a piece of paper. Write down the exact answer that you're going to give, and read that answer and rewrite it and say it out loud in front of a mirror and make it your own. Once you do that 10, 15 times, and then you do mock interviews, interesting enough, we do mock interviews in the EYFAP program. We have two rounds of mock interviews where people from domain expertise interview you. So you're not going in there without any, you're not thrown to the dogs. We make sure you're ready. And that's what you need to do at home as well, with a friend, with something. But you need to write down these interviews, and answer them, and do it at least 3 to 4 times with people, so that it becomes natural and so that you know the answer. Yeah. And so that, in a sense, when you're going in, you're prepared and you're confident. And I can see that. And I can see that this person has worked hard to prepare for an interview, because I know what it takes to prepare for an investment banking interview. And if the person is prepared, they've worked hard, they've been smart. Yeah. But if you go in and I say, what's investment banking about? You've done this before, you've done all the research, you know what it's about, but you've forgotten it. What does it give? Pitch me a stock. You're dead, right? Pitch it for me. But if I say, you know what, pitch me a stock. Yes, the stock that I would like to talk about is Cipla Pharmaceuticals. Cipla has been an et cetera company, and the way I think Cipla should be valued. And suddenly I'm like, oh my God, this person knows what they're talking about. Yeah. And because you've done it like 5 times before, you are absolutely ready to do it again. Prepare questions for the employer. This is just a way of, if you have been very specific about your answers and you actually gone through the company's website and customized everything, they will notice, and they don't really care if you have any questions. But some good questions are, uh, I would like to understand your the hierarchy of your firm a little bit better. How many years does it take? For instance, how many years does it take for an analyst to become an associate? What is the, or perhaps, what is your induction program like? I haven't been able to find any information on your induction program. What is your induction program like? That's a great question for investment banking or private equity. Um, uh, what, uh, what, While I understand what my role is on a more general basis, could you perhaps tell me what would my role be outside anything? Would I be doing anything else other than this, and this? How big is the team that I would be working in? All of these questions, while maybe impertinent, actually show that you care about your career just as much as that you know that you want to know what this company can do for you as much as what this company can do for you, what you can do for the company. But don't be rude. Be nice. Smile through your interview. That's very, very important. So when you ask, and keep them short. Uh, Please don't ask questions like how much leave do you give, how much. Even this question should be something that shows an attitude or a value that you have. For instance, um, you know, I'm keen to do certain things. Would I be able to, like, for instance, I am very keen to understand the pharmaceutical industry better. Would I be able to join that team? Because I have done so much research in it, and I know that you have that business quite thing. Would that work? Um, all of that stuff makes a massive difference to them. Okay, be engaged throughout your entire interview. Now, a little bit about we'll do questions later on. A little bit about what to do during the interview. Um, One of the Let me see if I have a slide here. Um, you know, of course, here are the common questions that I've already talked about. Um, I wanted to talk about, yes, yes. Okay, dress for the interview. Okay, during the interview, some of the things, of course, dress for the interview, but even during the interview, um, what I most people, one very basic stuff. Don't be late. Punctuality is critical. It doesn't matter if you're early and they're 1 hour delayed. That's their prerogative. They're hiring you, but you cannot be late. If anything, get there 15 minutes before you're required to be there. Half an hour before you're required to be there. What does half an hour before required to be there allow you to do? You can essentially go into the ladies or the men's room, clean up. If you have maybe sweaty armpits, you can dry them out. If you have sweat dropping on your forehead, which is always going to happen in Bombay, because on the train, in the car, in an auto, you can comb your hair. You can look presentable because first impressions matter. They matter more than anything else. And if you think they don't matter, if they matter for everyone, because that's the first thing I've noticed. And the problem, it sets the tone for the interview. If you walk in with sweaty armpits, unkempt hair, late, smelling, for instance, it puts me off edge. And the interview could go very good, but you will catch me on the back foot for no fault of your own. And and while I will question you, you need to be professional, because what this shows me is this is exactly the person who's going to be talking to my clients. Yeah, so be professional. With regard to dress sense, I don't like telling people what to wear or whatever. Just be professional. I think men wear ties and suits. Women wear suits, saris, a crisp salwar kameez, a crisp sari, a crisp skirt suit, a crisp pantsuit. Anything goes these days. But to err now, while business casual is fine for a lot of firms, err on the caution, or err on the side of caution with respect to how to dress. Be conservative, but doesn't mean you cannot show um, your personality. Not at all. I think personality is very important. In fact, if anything, personality is critical, especially when you're trying to remember someone in a sea of employees. So it's very, very important. Um, what I would say is, and during the interview, sit straight, smile if you can, but not a Cheshire grin like this. Smile, be confident. And if you have rehearsed all the questions like I'm asked you to do, you are going to be confident. If you've done 3 rounds of this already, um, and you've done various versions of it with your family or your friends or the EY domain or the HR EY FAB domain person asking you different sets of questions, you're going to be ready. Investment banking is actually very simple with respect to if you prepare the technical questions and if you prepare the same questions, there's no like rocket science to it. But when you are confident, you sit straight and you answer all the questions. What can happen, and the great thing about answering all the questions, take your time. Don't spout out your answer even if you know the answer. Take your time, wait for a couple of seconds, and then answer the question. It means that you're thinking about the question, even if you know it off by heart. Yeah, and that's very, very important. Um, the one of the other things that I always tell people for interviews is calm yourself down before you go in by listening to. I always listen to a song, something that calms me down. Take deep breaths, clear your mind, and go in with a positive attitude. And that's just why getting in early, half an hour early, is great. Now I'm going to spend some time on the technical aspects of the technical aspects. And before that, though, this I want to talk about this really strange. This walk me through your resume. Walk me through your resume. If you don't write out anything else, you have to write out walk me through your resume. Walk me through your resume is a qualitative question. It's not a technical question. So I want to address this question specifically. Um, walk me through your resume essentially means tell me about the best things about you and what you can do for me. That's what it means. Okay. I do not need to know that I went to this school, I went to this grade, I went to this school with this grade. You need to make it interesting. It's a story. So tie your story to their business needs. And their business needs are people who can travel a lot, tie in your travel, tie in your ability to adapt, to be fluid. If your business is about change and working long hours, tie your hard work and throw in examples of where your hard work mattered. And so tell me about yourself can essentially lead the interview and talk about all the skills. For instance, put in an anecdote about the moment you knew finance was going to be your chosen career path. That's a great insight that you don't have to talk about later. And it answers why you want to be in investment banking before the person asks the question. They've already got the question, right? Um, and of course, how you contribute to the company is essentially to your strengths. What you don't want to spend too much time on is your family, your sister, weddings, and that kind of stuff. Your religion. Stay away from all of that stuff. Now I'm going to get to the technical questions for investment banking. Um, from a technical perspective, what a lot we at Imarticus spend a lot of time. 1 second. Yeah, spend a lot of time actually having a number of question banks for people with respect to the kind of questions that they're going to get. And we have a number of technical questions that we have a massive bank on, which sample questions from various interviews that people have attended, and and across the board, be it private equity, be it investment banking, be it corporate finance, etc. Let me just, yeah, sorry. So one of the key questions, of course, is the divide your learning, for instance, or the technical questions that you're going to be asked into 4 parts. You're going to be asked on accounting. You're going to be asked on valuation and forecasting. You're going to be asked specific questions about your ability to analyze industry, and you're going to be asked on how you what you know about corporate finance generally, corporate finance events, and that is a technical question. So the first thing, accounting questions are anywhere from, okay, it's questions like, what are the three links between your accounting, the three accounting statements? If the PE, if the PE ratio of a company, sorry, if the liquidity ratio of a company goes from 1.2 to 1.6, what does it mean? Walk me through the income statement, the balance sheet, and the profit and loss of the company. Now, how would you answer that question? You would say, take company X and let this company be a company that you are actually working with, a company that you've actually focused on. Take company Cipla, take company Madras Cements, and walk them through the P&L, walk them through the balance sheet. And this way, you've already showcased your ability to read a balance sheet. Another question that gets asked in accounting all the time is, walk me through the DuPont ratio. Make sure that you know the DuPont ratio. The DuPont ratio is a pyramid of ratios. That's very, very important. Walk me through the DuPont ratio and let me know how does liquidity and efficiency fit into the DuPont ratio. Okay. When you go, now that's accounting for you. When you go into forecasting and modeling, for instance, they're gonna. This is where you get really, really stuck. How would you? A company goes from how companies manufacturing 10 pencils this year. What do you think the company is going to do next year? This is a broad technical question, right? How do you answer it? You start at the very beginning. Use logic. I will start with, how many people live in Bombay? Start with population and work your way down. Make assumptions and then do both top-down and bottom-up forecasting, which is taught in the EY FAP program. And that way, you essentially answer all their questions to what they need to know about whether you can forecast. Make sure you tell them how to do the percentage of sales method, which is taught in the FAP program. Make sure you know how to tell them the historical trend methodology. And of course, the other more technical ways of forecasting that I won't go into here, but which are taught in the program, which will of course showcase that you know how to forecast. Next, you can also, if they're going to ask you something about forecasting, throw in that you know a little bit about modeling. Throw in that you know about, I need to make sure that these things are also showcased as documented assumptions in various sheets in my model. And here you can talk a little bit about your modeling skills, which are exceptionally important in an investment banking job. So that's one of the key questions that get thrown out, and that's where you bring in all of your knowledge. Valuation is very, very simple. Valuation I divide into specific equation questions, which also happen in accounting, by the way. They can ask you, define ROI to me. What is the equation? Define sales turnover ratio. What is that equation? How do you forecast in working capital? That's another question. Same way, valuation is divided into 2 parts. Valuation is either broad, tell me how you value a company, and that's the easiest way to do it because you've already prepared for that, okay? Take one of the companies and walk through the valuation. Okay, you can value a company. Let's take company, I don't know, Blue Dart, and if you don't want to use a listed company because private companies are so much easier to do, you can then take a fictional hypothetical chai shop or a fictional hypothetical biscuit company. That's perfectly fine too. But using an example to base your answer on helps you build on that. It gives you something to It makes it anecdotal. So let's assume I take a pencil company. I have two ways. I have the income-based approach. I have the market-based approach. In the income-based approach, I first take the income-based approach. And you use this opportunity to tell them everything you know about valuation, from how to do the CAPM model, to how to lever beta, unlever beta, to use the WACC, to talk about terminal value, until he says, stop, I know everything you need to know. You know it all. And so that way, he doesn't get very technical and then, do technical questions. Same with relative valuation, the dividend discount model, for instance. Same thing. Why? At some level, now here's the thing: if they think that you know so much, which you do, they might do trick questions like, "What about outliers in your peer group?" Or what about this that happened in this industry? It's okay to not know. You've done so well so far. It's okay to say, I actually don't know much about that. I might have to look up on that. I'm sorry. Uh, you know, uh, that's perfectly fine. Nobody's asking you to be. You're young. Nobody's asking you to be a expert on these industries. You don't have the expert material to be an expert on these industries. But what you do have, but what you already showcased, is your ability to do the base of this job, and that's all they want to see. Now, the specific questions are questions like, what is the CAPM model? What is the WACC? How do I calculate? Give me the equation for terminal value calculation. Versus a subjective question like, what is the biggest issues you see with the DCF model? Okay, what is the problem with DCF? Or the biggest issues you see with the multiple comparative relative analysis valuation? Those are specific questions you need to prepare for, and those are of course very easy answers. One, they're taught in the FAP program, and two, they're also taught in multiple, that you can read up general and lots of textbooks, etc., that will help you find the answers to these questions. But these are specific questions. For instance, how do you lever beta? How do you unlever beta? Is something I always ask, because I can immediately say if a person is true finance or if the person is just dabbling. Because if they know how to lever beta, unlever beta at the top of their head, they actually tomorrow will be able to do the job during the job. And the final area, especially now we come to specific areas. For instance, sorry, if you're in an investment banking job, they will ask you, and these are considered technical questions, they will ask you to talk about a deal that you've seen. And absolutely, you can talk about the Walmart Flipkart deal. Now, here's the thing. If your three industries that you have chosen and you have showcased your knowledge in those industries, you also need to know what happened with respect to M&A in those industries so that you don't trip up and they know. You need to know at least the top three deals that have happened. If you are going into an M&A interview, you need to know quite a bit about the deals the firm that you're going into has done, and you also need to know about the top deals that have happened in the last 6 months. You need to know their valuations, you need to know their motivations. Not of every deal, that you can't get every deal, but you need to know, for instance, if you are doing M&A and you're with an investment banking interview with me, and you do not know that, you don't know the value, how much Walmart paid for Flipkart, I'm not going to hire you. That shows me that you do not have an true interest in this space. I will also ask you about awareness questions like the Sensex. Where is it going? Is it going to fall? What is the global economy? What is the impact of Brexit on India? All of these, what is the impact of Brexit on India is a very, very important question that you need to know the answer to. Because you need to show that you are aware of both global and local economic trends, that you are aware of global finance, because global finance is very important to us, and that is critical. I am now, and of course, finally, I think that's essentially it. Your awareness and yeah, I think that those are from a technical perspective. Now we have another 10 minutes left. I can take. Do we have any questions? I'm looking at the chat. I don't see any questions. Would you like to ask me any questions? Am I looking at questions? Hello?
Reshma, hi. We've got a couple of questions here.
Sure.
Do you want me to read out the questions to you?
Yes, please. Yes.
Okay, so we've got a question from Neha. She asks, what are the relevant sources from where she can prepare for case interviews that are sometimes asked in investment banking
Okay,
interviews?
perfect. Okay. So as I said, industry case interviews, you can go through the industry association. I don't know if she saw it, but I walked you through how to get information. Did you see that, Neha? And I don't know if it was clear, but I went through the internet and showed you how to look for stuff. That's number one. Industry associations. For a company, it will be the company website, it will be their annual report, and of course, in news and information about them. Yeah. And if you can get equity research, old equity research reports, they're excellent to find out more about the company. Uh, from a perspective of industry and company, those are your best bets. If you have access, for people who don't have access to stuff like Capital Line, Merger Market, Reuters, Bloomberg, etc. And you don't really need to. All the information, it's remember it's your analysis that matters and not your information. Information is free. Everybody has access to the same information. It's your analysis that will set you up, will set you apart during an interview. But for industries, industry association, which should have all the data, and of course the PDF reports by advisory firms. For companies, their annual report, their websites, their investor relations section, their quarterly, the BSC, the Sensex, and of course your uh, the information in the news, the news, the Economic Times, or any news articles, but just don't develop in that. Of course, this is very. We actually spend a significant amount of time. We actually have an entire 5 hours that we dedicate to how to research, how to research industries in the EYFAP program. So the EYFAP program spends a lot of time on how to get the best out of the internet. Next
Awesome. Our
question.
next question, Reshma, is from Nimesh. He wants
Mhm.
to know the qualifications that would help him get shortlisted for an investment banking job.
Okay, so investment banking job qualifications are very, very vague. There are, unlike this, for instance, I am not a CA, I am not a CFA. The qualifications are such are very vague in investment banking. So, to be very honest, there to get through the door, you need to be able to prove that you're from a good school. Um, Obviously, a good pedigree, a good academic from a good school is very, very important. So if you obviously have the IIT, IIM, or IIT ISB combination, you're good. It's a very strong, but not everybody has that, and we understand that. But unfortunately, pedigree is very important in investment banking. However, if you are able to showcase a, a strong academic background, and a variety of work experience, internships, etc., that will also help. There are no qualifications. MBAs are required. If at an analyst position, you can still go get into an analyst position as a fresher if you start really low. But because there are so many MBAs in the market, most firms will probably look at you if you have an MBA. But you can absolutely get an analyst position without being an MBA and having some sort of you know internship or work experience in a small firm, whatever in whatever capacity, in finance work experience in whatever capacity. But there are no qualifications. Yes, but if you want to join accounting firm, for instance, even in their advisory firms, so if it's KPMG, PwC, etc., it is best that they will not take you unless you're a CA. But otherwise, investment banks have no general qualifications like that, which only makes it harder.
Awesome. Okay, the next question we have from Pulkit is, do students from tier 2 colleges stand a chance to get a job in an investment bank after completing the FAP course with Imarticus?
Absolutely, because I think the FAP course of the Imarticus is enables the person to go get through the interview when uh, they wouldn't have done before, because they learn things that I've talked about: accounting, valuation, forecasting, financial modeling, business communication, M&A, equity research, things that people are just not taught in tier two colleges or even tier one colleges for that matter. They don't teach you how to. They don't handhold you through financial modeling at ISB either. So absolutely, they help get you through. Um, you still have to do a lot of the work. You still have to make sure that you call up companies, you find the job, etc. But the EY-FAP program will make sure that you have the technical knowledge at your fingers, and the Excel skills and the PowerPoint skills, the forecasting skills, the communication skills that you will be required to succeed at both the interview and at the job. Yes.
All right. Our next question, Reshma, is from Ankit.
Mm-hmm.
He says that he has 16 months of experience in corporate investment banking and
Mm-hmm.
a 4-year gap in the industry due to civil service preparation. He
Mm.
wants to know what the possibility to get hired is after doing some changes and getting educated.
I don't understand the question. Sorry.
So he wants to. So basically, he's got a gap of 4 years in his investment banking
Oh,
career, and
because
he
he was
wants to
working
know
for no, no, no. So does he have any work experience at all?
16 months of experience in corporate investment banking.
And and after that he took 4 years off.
After that, a 4-year gap, yeah, because of civil service preparation, and
Civil service preparation.
he wants to
So
know
yes,
what are
you
the chances of getting hired.
okay. The problem here is 4 years off is tough to explain. Uh, while you do have 18 months of corporate investment banking experience, what you will not be, what you will still be is an analyst when you get back in. Yes, absolutely. If you can, the only issue I will see that you have is to convince them that you're willing to do an analyst role because you've missed 4 years. But if you're willing, I don't see any reason why they would not be interested in looking at someone who has very specific corporate investment banking experience, especially some of the smaller boutique firms. As long as you're fine with starting at the from the very beginning.
Our next question, Reshma, is from Suganya. She wants to know how to politely convey the fact that she doesn't want to reveal personal information in an interview when the interviewer actually puts the question to her about, something that's personal.
Most interviewers don't ask personal questions, so there's no. Most interviewers don't ask personal questions. They are. I mean, it depends on what kind of personal question it is, but most interviewers will, what they saw, will not ask personal questions like, I don't know what those personal questions are, but if you're wondering, I need an example of a personal question.
How
Um,
about something like marriage plans?
Marriage plans are something, in my opinion, if you want a job, well, that's the problem. Most companies don't ask these questions, especially investment banking. People do get married in investment banking, so it's not that. How I think that you should just say, yes, if you have to be somewhat honest, but keep your, be honest, but keep details to yourself. You know, it doesn't matter what you are, whether you're going to get married or not. So if you don't want to tell them that you want to get married, if it's not official, don't tell them. Just say, I have no plans as of now. In terms of, but if you are engaged to get married, and if it's a big deal, and you've told the entire universe, then you probably have to tell them that you're engaged to get married. But you don't foresee any issues with that because you've worked before and you'll continue to work after marriage. These questions are, however, very rarely asked in investment banking.
Right, makes sense. Yeah. All right. The next question we have is from Yogesh, and he wants to know how to apply for industrial training in investment banks.
I don't know what that means. What is industrial training?
Not too sure myself.
No, there's no such thing as industrial training. Investment banks have an induction program, large, but most investment banks in India don't have massive induction programs, if that's what you mean. But there's no industrial training. The EY-FAP program is perhaps the only specific, specialized investment banking training program in the country right now. But I don't know of any others that are as good. But there's no such thing as industrial training. One, because investment banking is not industrial. So
Okay. We've got a response here from Yogesh. He says that CAs need to go through industrial training for 6 months.
no, no, there's no
But I
such
don't think
thing.
that.
There's no such thing. Yeah, there's no such thing.
All right. Yeah, I think that's about it for today, Reshma. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about?
No, that's fine. Just best of luck. Work hard. Make sure that you prepare sufficiently. I find most people say they're going to prepare, but they don't prepare. They don't do the 3 companies in 3 sectors, which means you need to know 9 companies inside out before you go for your interview. Once you do that, just in the process of researching those 9 companies, a lot of those issues that you have with respect to how you're going to answer questions will get resolved by themselves because you're studying. Yeah, but otherwise, thank you very much, and I wish you all the best of luck, and I very much hope this was useful, and I hope to see a lot of you in the FAB program in the near future. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Reshma, for the session. It was really interesting. Guys, if you have any other questions, please feel free to approach Imarticus, and we'd love to answer all your questions face to face.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.